to bring today's episode to the podcast talking all about anxiety. When we're on the fertility journey, that in itself can be anxiety provoking. So, situational anxiety, or maybe you have dealt with anxiety your whole life and tried a whole bunch of things. Maybe you've experienced panic attacks, or maybe you've gone back and forth between anxiety and depression. Today, we're talking all about your mood, why that is so important when you're trying to conceive, and why that can be a clue as to why it's not working. We're giving you strategies and specific diet and lifestyle recommendations to help you right now to improve the chances of pregnancy success. Excited for you to listen. Let's go. Hey, Dr. Traci, excited to have you on the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Let's get some people pregnant.
Let's do it. Awesome. Well, excited to have you here. Can you share your story about really how you came to do this work?
Yes, absolutely. So there are about 4 phases to it. What I started out, my father was a psychiatrist. And so I grew up helping out in his office. And I was always told that if you had anxiety, it was a genetic chemical imbalance, and you just had to be on these magical medications for the rest of your life. And it left me with the impression that you are genetically defective or broken if you have anxiety. Age 19, had my first panic attack and thought, oh my God, I'm defective, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me. And I was like, no, I refuse to take this on as my identity. So fast forward to grad school, I was doing a doctoral program in medical anthropology. And by the way, like having the worst anxiety in grad school is so stressful. And I was really interested in how Indigenous people were developing the same chronic illness and mental health issues that industrialized cultures have when they started adopting our lifestyle. And also there are a lot of industries coming into their lands and, polluting their rivers or, just contaminating their environment. And so they were getting all these, illnesses and stuff. And so that's when I realized it's not a genetic chemical imbalance. It's a lifestyle issue and it's an environmental issue. So mental health is, if you have anxiety because you're struggling to get pregnant or for any other reason, you're not defective or broken. It's not just some kind of genetic defect. We've normalized a toxic culture that has forgotten that we are nature. We're not living in alignment with our evolutionary biology. And so anyway, I eventually came full circle to functional medicine. And a lot of that was through my mom having Crohn's disease and getting her quiescent or in remission. They told her she would never have a normal life without her colon. She would never have a normal life unless they took her colon out. And I thought, what's normal about having a permanent colostomy? So through mainly just lifestyle and a couple of supplements, we got her into remission from Crohn's disease. Back then, I knew way less than I know now. And I stumbled into functional medicine, fell in love with it. And I was like, these are my people. And so that's what I do now. And so during the pandemic, I've been a generalist for a long time and noticed that when people fix their underlying health issues, their mental health issues would resolve, their depression and anxiety would go away. So during the pandemic, when anxiety was at its height, I just, during a meditation, I got a very strong message I asked during meditation how I could serve people. And a few hours later, I got this like kind of mystical download while I was parking my car in a parking lot. And the message was to help people with chronic anxiety because it was an epidemic long before the pandemic, but it's only gotten worse. So I want people to know if you have anxiety, you're not defective, you're not broken. There are solutions. You just have to figure out what's causing it. And it's a little different for everybody.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Like it is so common when people are on the fertility journey, either you have anxiety because of the journey that you're on, because many people that we're working with, like we specialize in diminished ovarian reserve, premature ovarian insufficiency, low AMH or high FSH. So many times they've been through multiple failed IVFs. They've had, they've been recommended donor eggs. They've potentially had chemicals or, pregnancy loss, been through a lot. So that in itself,
very
anxiety,
traumatic.
depression, a lot of trauma, right?
Financial trauma too.
Exactly. And then prior to that, maybe they labeled themselves as they were labeled as a anxious person or a depressed person. And so, and then as they start to make the necessary changes for their health, and then turns out they weren't an anxious person. There was issues going on with their gut, food sensitivities, and we don't need that SSRI. It's not to say that we're against medication, but
it doesn't fix the problem.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So looking at the underlying cause of this. So let's talk about the gut brain connection and really why that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to say is your liver is part of the gut. It's a digestive organ. It does a lot of other things. And it also manages hormones. Like, so it works with breaking down hormone metabolites. And so if your liver's off, your digestion's off, your absorption of nutrients is off, you're going to have hormonal imbalances. Your microbiome, which is all over your body, not just in your gut, but your microbiome plays a huge role in your hormones. And then we have, of course, we have the gut-brain axis where we have chemical messaging happening at the speed of life, bidirectional between your gut and your brain. And it's happening through chemical signaling from microbes. It's happening through neurotransmitters, the vagus nerve, also like the neuroendocrine cells are cells that are kind of like these hybrid hormone neurotransmitter, they're like a brain cell and a hormone made a baby. And so there's this magical miracle of connection happening. And in the modern world, when we, aren't, taught to take care of ourselves, we eat poorly, we have all these toxic exposures. We end up with, we've devastated our microbiome. So we don't have the resilience in our nervous system and in our immune systems to recover and tolerate the world around us. So we're creating this increasingly toxic, malnourished world that we have less and less capacity to withstand. And so what ends up happening is, we end up with, mental health issues because our bodies don't feel safe. And why should they feel safe? If we're not getting proper nutrition, we're not getting enough sleep, we're saying mean things to ourselves in our heads, we're completely overstimulated. We have these infections we can't manage because we've decimated the good guys that are supposed to protect us. We are in these states of chronic inflammation, and it's just, we're completely overloaded on every possible level. How would your nervous system possibly feel safe? Why would it send you safety signals? It would be betraying you if it told you it was fine to keep doing what you're doing. And I want people to think of anxiety like all symptoms, like a smoke alarm that's telling you something's wrong and it needs attention. And if you just silence the symptoms, you silence the smoke detector, you just numb the symptoms, your house will still burn down. I say this in every interview, and I'm sorry if I'm repetitive. You've heard me before and you keep hearing this, but it's like we can't afford to keep ignoring the cries of our bodies. And infertility is one of those things that's telling you, wait, your body doesn't have what it takes to make a baby right now. Like it takes a lot of life force to make a human with your body. And if you're not feeling safe and your body's really struggling for basic function, then trying to put a baby in the mix is really, really asking a lot of your body. So if you can get your body back and your nervous system back to where your body feels safe and things are working right, then you're able to conceive. And I jokingly say I've accidentally gotten quite a few women pregnant because they didn't think they could have children. And then when they worked with me and addressed the underlying causes of their anxiety, they also simultaneously addressed the underlying causes of their infertility.
Right. It's all connected, right? We get stuck in on like what's our, in this case, our FSH or AMH and our diagnosis. And we're like
Right.
so stuck over there, but we didn't look at all the other biomarkers or all the other underlying healing opportunities that have been missed. So let's talk about like what are some common themes that you're seeing there as one some reasons why someone could be experiencing mood disorder, so anxiety in this case.
Yeah. Where shall I start? Okay. Well, I work in three pillars. So one is going to be your lifestyle. It's going to be how your daily thoughts and actions. And so the word diet has become, it has the word diet in it. It sounds so horrible now, but it's just your habitual way of meeting your body's nutritional requirements and whether or not those needs are being met and whether or not you're enjoying it, whether you have shame around food. So there, a lot of people just are poorly nourished and they're calorie counting and, they're starving themselves of basic nutrients. So we have this weird kind of neurosis where we decided we're going to start picking on no protein's the devil, no protein's the answer, no carbs are the devil, carbs are no fat's bad, no fat's good. No, like it's like we don't even know how to feed ourselves anymore. So like being able to like heal your relationship with food and nourish yourself. And I teach something I call healthy hedonism, which is using pleasure, healthy pleasures, upgrading your pleasures from destructive pleasures to healthy pleasures. So your body can heal and you feel much happier. So having some, I call it a cheap thrill when you ingest something that gives you a rush for the moment or relaxes you for the moment, makes you feel good in the moment. But the long-term impact of that thing is actually to damage your brain, your nervous system, your hormones, your gut. How did that do something good for you? What about the pleasures that feel good now and make you feel good in the future? So I help people craft a healthy hedonism lifestyle where they're getting enough sleep, they're sleeping well, they enjoy their life, they find forms of movement they enjoy instead of, I'm going to exercise to burn calories because I hate my body. No, like play in your body, right? So there's that whole area. That's a realm, right? And then there's the nervous system work. So they're practices you can do in 5 to 15 minutes a day that will change the structure of your brain and move it away from like the stressed, traumatized brain to a more resilient, grounded, peaceful person who can handle the ebbs and flows of life, because life is going to throw you curveballs that will never stop. But your ability to handle it with resilience, and that changes. I've changed so much from the time I was 19 and a kid to now. Like the level, I'm not saying I intentionally put myself through intense stress, but my ability to manage stress and not have anxiety from, I look at some of the things I've gone through in the past few years, and the fact that my anxiety didn't come back and take over me again. I like, so I'm going to pat myself on the back. I've done a lot to earn that, and anyone can do that. I don't care what your genetics are like. If you look at my genetics, I have all the genetics that are just perfectly set for me to be anxiety prone. But I learned what I needed to do to not have that happening, and everyone can do that. So that's the second pillar. And then the third pillar that is the functional medicine work. That is looking at your gut health. A lot of people with anxiety, they don't want to know this, but they have a high toxic burden. They can have toxic mold. They can have, heavy metals, mercury fillings. I've seen mercury fillings cause panic attacks. And when they're safely removed and the person removes the mercury from their body, they actually stop having panic attacks. They stop having migraines. They stop having chronic fatigue and depression. And their ADHD goes to almost unnoticeable. So toxic burden, and then like just imbalances in our microbial world, our microbial universe. So a lot of people have some kind of tick-borne or Lyme infections or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, parasites. Guys, we live in a microbial world. Don't be scared to find out what's inside of you. So fill up, it's your allostatic load or your bucket of burdens. Figure out what's in your bucket of burdens so you can, because there's only so much your body can tolerate. So if you empty that bucket, then your nervous system's like, oh, I'm safe. I'm taken care of. Okay, I can relax. I think I can have a baby now.
Yeah, I think it is because a lot of us are in that fight or flight, and we're like stuck there from a food sensitivity, like a thyroid dysfunction, environmental toxins, all these parasite, whatever it is, and the body's like, I want, it's not safe to procreate, and we want to keep
Right,
you alive, and so how do we
right,
then reduce everything, right? So and then we
right,
put joy on hold. We're gonna do all the fun stuff when the baby comes, and so how do we
right.
do that? Like you were saying, like
Oh,
hedonism
yeah.
piece, like enjoying, like doing things. What are some, like any strategies there for doing that, like the bringing joy now, like you were talking about? Anything else you wanted to
Absolutely.
share?
Oh, thank you for saying that. I was just listening. I heard some clip. It was Gabor Mate talking
Oh
about
yeah.
how he regrets not having more joy and play in his, like, he just worked so hard, and he really regrets not. And I was like, yeah, that's a regret of a lot of people. And um, just simple, being silly. I think dance. I don't care if you think you can dance, if you're male or female or you're sexual oriented. I don't care. Look how many cultures dance is a fundamental part of their culture. Moving your body, playful expression, moving rhythmically to music, that is so good for us. Doing anything physical with our bodies that is expressive and playful. And then I just feel like being outside in nature, that's one of the biggest ones. Even if you can be barefoot have your feet bare feet on the earth, we're still like, ew, dirt. And I'm like, no, dirt's your friend. If it's not sprayed with glyphosate and pesticides and fertilizers, dirt is your friend. Microbes are your friend. So going out in an intact ecosystem, in a forest, on the beach, by a lake, just spending time with loved ones, laughing, being silly, get a coloring book. I don't care, but just do things for the intrinsic joy of just being, of expressing, of creating, cooking, people are like, I don't want to cook. I hate cooking. And I've had so many people that come to me and they're like, I don't know how to cook. I don't want to cook. I hate cooking. And then they finish my program and they're like, oh my God, I love it. And I make the most delicious food. I love how I eat now. They're in love with their new way of living. But I'm like, listen to a podcast, play music that makes you want to dance. Start small, add one thing, one new recipe a week, figure it out slowly. Like take your time, make things that turn you on, like, we've learned to be so shameful around so many things that are important. And one of the, like, sex, sensuality, food, getting pleasure from food. Just eat for nourishment, don't eat for pleasure. I so disagree with that. Boo.
That's what I say too. Boo on that one. I know it
Boo.
is. I always say to my kids, I'm like, oh, I'm a great singer. I mean, I know I'm a horrible singer, but I like singing,
Yeah,
right? In the
sing. Even if
car
it
or
sounds
music.
terrible, who
Yeah,
cares?
exactly. Enjoying that. And
Karaoke.
then outside yesterday, I usually get a whole day of Zooms, and I'm like, okay, I'm going. It was today. We're recording this sort of middle of April, and we're finally having some nice weather where I am. And yesterday, I'm like, okay, I have got to go outside. And so I was literally, I had my feet like in the grass, just on the
Yeah.
side there, just for a few minutes between a call. And yeah, I need to be grounded. And,
Yeah.
wherever I am, I'm always like, how do I get outside? How do I open the windows? How do I
Yeah.
like just
Fresh air,
be
sunshine.
exactly right? That's
Yeah.
what kind of we
You
want to be
need
back with
that.
nature.
Yeah. I recently moved from Hawaii to Colorado, and I have a friend who
Oh,
said there's no
interesting.
such thing as bad weather, just bad equipment, bad gear, and I'm really glad I listened to that because I bought a good coat, whatever. I just go out no
Yep.
matter what. Like it was blizzarding snow, and
Yep.
we got a big dump of snow recently. I was out in the blizzard walking a dog. It wasn't my dog. I borrowed a dog. But anyway, the point was, dog loved it. We went and hiked, we went walking around a lake. The geese were having a good time. No one
Yep.
seemed to mind except there were no humans. I was like, you guys are no fun. I was like, if a girl who's lived in Hawaii this long, 16 years, can move to Colorado and be out in a blizzard and have a
Oh
good
wow,
time,
good for you.
enjoy it, then everyone can do it.
Yeah, I'm
Look
Canadian,
how,
so I'm like
oh
I go
yeah.
out 365. I'm kind of
Yeah.
staying
There
in.
you
Although
go.
our winter this year was an absolute joke. Like it was like as El Nino came in and there was no winter. So
Yeah.
usually I've got the scarf up to my eyeballs, hat, dog's
Yeah.
got her little paw, her little coat on, and all the rest of it. But yeah, to be
Yeah.
outside, which is good. Okay, and then so let's
Sunshine.
talk about what are some symptoms, would you say, like inflammatory brain symptoms? Like what are you seeing there? Like I guess people are dealing with with anxiety and mood
Right.
issues, and they've always dealt with it, and they maybe are on medication, and here they are right now trying to have their baby, and it's not working, and this is maybe even making it even worse.
Yeah.
So, what are some symptoms?
Good question. So I like to say that anxiety is how the brain says ouch, right? Just like if you put your hand on a hot stove or something, it's how your brain says ouch. But so is depression, so is brain fog, so is fatigue. Um, all those things are signs of neuroinflammation. Also, if you develop like a tremor, like you have like a shaky hand. I went through an experience where I was exposed. Oh, I left that out of my story. So this is something that really made me, I went through something that literally almost killed me. I do not exaggerate. I lived in a house in Hawaii that had peeling paint. I was renting. They would not deal with it, probably because they suspected it was lead and they didn't want it. Maybe they were hoping I'd move out, but it was like this elephant in the room no one was talking about. But anyway, I ended up getting it. It ended up peeling so bad. I ended up with lead poisoning. Plus, there was toxic mold in the house. And then I was so immunosuppressed from that I had a partner at the time who had Lyme. And so I ended up also with Borrelia burgdorferi. So now I have Lyme, lead poisoning, and mold. Any one of those things by itself will destroy you. I had them all three at once and it was miserable. But you know what the first symptom was? Anxiety. That was the first symptom because I had perfect self-care. I was meditating 2 hours a day at the time. I was working out. I mean, I still take care of myself. I meditate a little less time now, but I had perfect self-care and I was still getting sick. But my body tried to tell me anxiety and then the brain fog and then the headaches and then I forgot headaches and then eventually a tremor and then tinnitus. And then I started having joint pain. And so it's not just in your brain, ended up in my joints and muscles. And I had horrible, what you would probably call fibromyalgia. I call it the F word diagnosis or the crazy lady diagnosis. So, and it just spread throughout, but it started in my brain first. It started in my neurological system first. It was everywhere. I had it on my skin, GI tract, whatever. My kidneys started failing. My eyes, it'll affect your eyesight, that kind of thing. If you have blurry vision, blurry vision, your eyes are the visible part of your brain. So if you're having like your blurry vision and headaches and brain fog and fatigue and anxiety or depression or both, that kind of thing, like I guarantee you have neuroinflammation, and that can be caused by neurotoxicity, meaning toxic stuff from chemicals and exposures, but it can also, neurotoxicity can happen from just waste from like the wrong kinds of microbes that are triggering inflammatory response. So
Yeah, and we think as we age that we're supposed to all be wearing glasses, but that's just not the case. And it's interesting as you
yeah.
clean up your diet and work on these things. Because I'll go out with my friends now because I'm 53, and we all go out. And I got one friend's got a magnifying glass. She's trying to look
Yeah.
at the menu. The other one's like switching around with the glasses. No one can see what the heck's going on. And I'm like, my vision's pretty decent. So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Mine got better. I still haven't gotten it all the way back to how it was before I got sick. It's been a couple years since the apex of the whole situation, but my vision is so much better now. Oh my God, it's way better. And I went to an ophthalmologist and I was like, hey, I have lead poisoning. I have toxic. I tried to educate him or tell him, and he's like, oh, it's just age. It's just age. Like you and I are only a few years apart.
right.
And he was just like, it's just age. And man, like, don't let people put that hex on you. I know infertility, there's something real about the more time you spend on the planet. But you know what? I had a client in particular, this has happened more than once, where I'll have someone who has like multiple autoimmune conditions, mold toxicity, all this stuff, and they're in such a hurry to get pregnant because of their chronological age. And I was like, you need to focus on your biological age because you are more for, so if you're in the middle of like multiple autoimmune conditions and you have inflammation and you're toxic and all this stuff and your whole nervous system isn't feeling safe, and then on top of that, you're going to ask your body to make a human, like, wow, that's a big ask. And so I empathize with, I'm not saying, I don't mean this judgmentally. I'm trying to be just rational here, that if you're going to ask your body, say you're 35 or 37, and you're like, I got to have a baby now or else, waiting a year to get a lot better, you will be biologically younger than you were the year before when you're trying to get pregnant. That's how I see it. I don't know about you, Sarah, but that's how I see
Yeah,
it.
I say it all the time. Chronological age, you can have a 20-year-old that's cut trash health and a 40-year-old that's in,
Super
pristine health.
fertile. Yeah.
Exactly. So it is, and then we get on this path, and you see an REI, don't go down the path of IVF, and everyone's telling you you're too old, the eggs are too old, they got you in a panic. You're people are doing, like, I have people doing 18, 19, 20 IVFs, like, just craziness what's going on, and like the definition of insanity, right? And so it is to be able to focus on your health, and then that impacts your pregnancy, your postpartum period, the health of your children, your children's children. Like, it's hard when we're right in the middle of it and we want this done now.
Right.
We think all those other things are the fast track. Like, the fast track is always your health and your partner, not just you, like making
Yeah.
the changes together.
Yeah.
Um, and what are some, let's talk about the conventional approach to anxiety and then a functional approach to anxiety. Like, what do you
Right.
see in there?
Okay. So the conventional approach to anxiety is going to be a couple of avenues. There can be something like benzos, benzodiazepines, like Xanax, that they're trying to turn off the alarm. They're trying to activate GABA, like a neurotransmitter, a brain chemical that makes you calm down. But it's kind of like trying to hold a beach ball underwater on a wavy day. Like, it's like it doesn't work. And their body's trying to tell you something's wrong. And you're saying, shut up, stupid, shut up, stupid, shut up, stupid. But that anxiety signal, it may be miserable and horrible, and it may feel like your body's betraying you, but your body's your best friend because it's telling you something's wrong. I tell people this all the time. And so you're telling it to shut up and not warn you, and you're trying to just turn off the signal. And the thing with benzos is they eventually they may have an initial corrective effect, but over the long term, they have imbalancing effects on your brain chemistry, neuropeptides, which are long strings of amino acids or proteins that are in their neurotransmitters. Anyway, there are all these different brain chemicals that get eventually thrown out of whack because you're not fixing why you have the anxiety. You're just trying to turn off the alarm, and biology is going to try to find a route around that. Another problem is something called paradoxical side effects. And paradoxical side effects are side effects that create this exact symptom you're trying to treat with the medication. So, for example, you've probably heard of people who are on benzos and they start having severe panic attacks and severe insomnia. And I've worked with people who only took benzos for 3 months because, and I think there are different levels of sensitivity. I know someone I went to high school with who took benzos for decades, and he eventually came off of them and figured out, other solutions, but he didn't have the same reactions that other people did, but he's rare. But he did have other health problems. He had issues with obesity, and like he had a lot of health problems. So it wasn't, like he didn't have issues, but that's kind of more the exception than the rule. I find that people, the longer you stay on them, the more at risk you are. And if you're a highly sensitive person, especially your body's not used to that kind of thing, then it can be pretty atrocious. And this one person I worked with, she really beautiful soul inside and out, like really intelligent, and she gets, after 3 months of benzo, she's having the worst searing panic attacks, the worst insomnia. She literally couldn't sleep for more than 30 minutes for a month because of the benzos. And her psychiatrist, when she asked to get off of them, just had her jump off. One of the things I urge people to do, even psychiatrists, I have friends who are I'm not anti-psychiatrist. My dad was a psychiatrist, but I encourage psychiatrists or people working with psychiatrists to titrate off of your medication or wean off your medication at a fraction of the rate that that is even recommended by the pharmaceutical companies who make the drugs. I'm a PhD, not an MD, but I do patient advocacy. I've done tons of research on this. I've seen this in real life with lots of clients, and the people who get off really slowly do better. Anyway, so that's the benzos. Like they can, I find them quite dangerous. Now they were designed for, like, I have anxiety about flying on a plane or going through a surgical procedure. They were never tested or designed for people to be on lifelong, ever. That's not even why they were made. But now doctors are prescribing them and no one's saying anything about it, right? So then there's the antidepressants that are often given to people with anxiety. There are SSRIs, there are other classes of antidepressants. The problem with SSRIs, they cause weight gain. They interfere with, there's a bacteria in our gut. It's Tersibacter something. Anyway, I can't think of it right now, but there's a bacteria in our gut. There are probably multiple species, but this one's been more heavily studied, that actually signals your intestinal cells to make serotonin. And so the irony is, when you take these serotonin reuptake inhibitors, they're supposed to kind of, help slow they're trying to help you make better use of what serotonin you have, which, again, there's a meta study that came out demolishing the theory that low serotonin causes depression. So we know that's not true. But having serotonin helps you feel good, helps your brain work well. It's an important neurotransmitter. But when you take these SSRIs, they actually interfere with the chemical signaling between these bacteria and your intestinal cells that make serotonin. You make 90% of serotonin in your intestines. So you make 50% of your dopamine in your intestines. So what happens when you have a drug? Oh, and it also, the same bacteria, nothing in nature only has one function. The same bacteria also helps your metabolism, helps you keep a healthy level of body fat. So basically, you take this chemical that's supposed to help recycle serotonin through the synapses, help you make good use of what little serotonin they think you have. And what it ends up happening is actually inhibiting your body's ability to make serotonin and making you gain weight. And I've seen people, they have a perfect diet, they're exercising, they're doing all the right things, and they can't lose more than 5 pounds till they wean off their antidepressants. And they're often stacked on more than one. So you have these chemicals that, look, if you're about to commit suicide, you have such searing anxiety, you can't even function. By all means, if you can't find supplements or herbs that help you, or breath work or whatever, nervous system regulation to help, which I would be my first go-to. If you feel like the medication is the only thing you can wrap your head around, fine. Do that temporarily till you get your head above water. And then use that window to figure out why you have this and fix it, so you don't need the medication. You can wean off carefully. That was a really long answer to your question, but I feel very passionate about that. It's a big topic.
Right, because I think there's like a huge the dialogue now is opening about mental health, but the problem is, it's like, let's just get on medication. So it's like the wrong. Okay, great. We don't want to have a stigma around, especially in, my daughter is 22, and it's like everyone there. Oh, I got my anxiety. Like, literally, people are all talking about their anxiety. Before, 30, 20 years, no one was talking about their anxiety. You just thought you were crazy because you were having panic attacks and you didn't even tell anybody. And now, so everyone's talking about it, but it's the wrong conversation, because no one's talking about the ways to improve it. Like the diet you're eating, the processed food, if you have gut infections, the toxins were, 85,000 chemicals we're exposed to, like all of that piece. And then the fact that this nervous system regulation. So let's talk about
the functional approach.
Yeah, let's do the functional approach. What's some of your go-to strategies?
Yeah.
Someone presenting with anxiety. What are you saying?
Yeah. So it's definitely my 3 pillars. Just quick review of optimizing your lifestyle. I call it a lifestyle makeover, because who doesn't love a good makeover? Because it should be fun and pleasurable, and not punishing, and where you're withholding, instead of having your needs not met and you're having to go without. I think of it as finding ways to get your most basic human needs met in a way that you enjoy, that really works for you. And then there's the functional medicine, there's the labs and the targeted supplements that have to be high quality. Don't go buy supplements at Costco, really, unless they've improved something I haven't seen recently.
No. But do you have any go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then the nervous system work, which is, it's usually breath work, meditation, visualization. There are things you can do, somatic things you can do, learning to feel your body. Because we have a culture that teaches us to numb things. If you watch, I say this on a lot of interviews, you watch a TV show or a movie, someone had some kind of emotional challenge. I need a drink. And, I'm not trying to be judgy about alcohol, but think about it. It's a liver toxin and a brain toxin. and it makes you feel relaxed in the moment, but then it literally damages your brain cells and your liver and your other cells. It actually is a poison. I'm not saying you can never, ever, ever have alcohol, ever, ever, ever. I'm just saying if you're trying to conceive and you're anxious and you're overwhelmed, perhaps putting a poison in your body on purpose, maybe this isn't the right moment for that. And what I like to say is keep the ritual and sub the substance. If you like, if caffeine is making you more anxious, which I can't tell you how many people are just shocked when they wean off caffeine and don't quit cold turkey and find a really high quality decaf coffee that's truly decaffeinated and organic and doesn't have any crap in it and it's not chemically decaffeinated, or they move to herbal teas. Like roasted dandelion root tea is delicious. There's so many plants that make amazing teas. Like pine needles make amazing tea. It's like drinking Christmas tree wine. It's like, that might sound weird, but it's enchanting. And so there's so many enchanting herbs and things we can make into beverages. Why are we so fixated on this one that is literally a cup of liquid adrenaline, stress, cortisol, whatever stimulator? So
Yeah, we wonder why if we're having the coffee there, we're like, why we're having all these, like, why do we feel shaky? Why do we
like if
feel
you,
like,
yeah, if you,
yeah, I
if
used to
you
get the
drink,
work.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry. You go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you drink coffee and you get shaky, you get jittery, you have to suddenly go poop, your armpits are sweating, like any of those things, that's your body saying you just overloaded it with stress chemicals and that wasn't good. So here's the thing, you can still have a good quality coffee that's naturally decaffeinated. Now, most naturally decaffeinated coffee still has a little bit of caffeine, and my brain will not tell me right now. There's one actually based out of Boulder, Colorado. It has a blue label, but their decaf has the least amount of caffeine of any. Gosh, I wish I could think of it off the top of my head, but it exists. So the point is, but you have to wean off slowly. And people have this illusion that caffeine gives you energy. It doesn't. It steals energy from your future self. It's like living off a credit card and thinking you're rich, and no, you're going into debt. And so, and don't think I'm no fun because I'm so fun. I say every time I ask people to wean off of something, I put in like a bunch of other stuff that feels really good so you don't even miss it. So you're like crowding out the stuff that doesn't serve you with things that are even better and you don't miss it. I like to say it's like an ex that was a total jerk and you're like, how am I ever going to live without you? And then you break up with a person, move on, find something better. And then you look back and you're like, what was I doing with that person? It's the same thing with habits that don't serve us. Once you let them go and move on and find a better way of living and you fall in love with your life and you don't need willpower because you're in love with your life, you don't miss any of it. I swear you won't miss it. And I've had people say the only thing that gives me pleasure in life is my caffeine, my cup of coffee. I'm like, if that's the only thing that gives you pleasure in life, you have a much bigger problem than caffeine. You need more pleasure in your life. And when you have more pleasure in your life, the role of caffeine in your life shrinks down very tiny. And so, but anyway, people are shocked at how much better they feel when they get off caffeine. They can't believe it. And how much more energy you have because you're not like, using up your life force on this like adrenaline rush. You actually have more energy and your brain works better when you're off of it.
Yeah, and I think people with on the fertility journey, we know like for IVF, they recommend, just having at least one cup of coffee could be okay, but maybe it's not serving you.
If
Maybe
you're
that
having
coffee is
anxiety,
actually, pardon?
if you're having anxiety,
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Maybe it's not serving you, and being going off of it and doing, we recommend like over 10 days to go from, regular and decaf down to decaf to herbal tea sorry, down to green tea down to herbal tea. So you don't want to do it, cold turkey, or you're going to run into some problems. But
yes.
it's, for me, when I have coffee, it just makes me super plainy. My husband's like, oh, she's had coffee. She's planning 7 trips right now. Like it's just, and and before I used to be having more irritable. So it is being able to, see what's right for you. And so I guess let's talk a little bit more about the nervous system regulation. Anything you wanted to say there for some tips, and then
Yeah.
your go-to supplements. Obviously, we look at supplements from probably similar, like looking at testing, so you can really,
Right.
customize this. There's some basic ones to start off with, like magnesium and vitamin D3, K2, and omega and
Yeah.
CoQ10 and
Yeah. Those are
methylfolate prenatal. But like, what are some things, some supplements you'd recommend, or diet and lifestyle? What anything you want to say there?
Yeah. So on the nervous system, one of the things I have on my website, just anyone can go download it for free. There's something I call it, well, someone else called it a magic meditation. So I call it a magic brain trick meditation. And it's a technique that was developed by Peter Levine, somatic, he started the whole, somatic experiencing movement. And then Maggie Phillips, PhD, she's also a brilliant mind. And it's something they created for physical pain, but it actually works for anxiety, overwhelm, and it also helps with sleep. And the sleep thing was something that my clients discovered. It was an accidental happy finding, but it's a 15-minute meditation anyone can do. Even if you think you, quote, suck at meditation, anyone can do this. It's very structured. It tells you exactly what to do. It's short, and it's amazing the state change you go through. And then I've taught meditation for years, and so I merged my meditation teaching with this technique into the magic brain trick meditation. And I say experience your self-healing superpowers, because you can feel so out of control of your life and your nervous system. And when you realize there are techniques that you can actually do that in just a matter of minutes, you've completely created a state change. And you realize you have more control over your body, your nervous system, and your ability to heal than you ever imagined. So that's why I put that. I'm also coming soon going to be doing an anxiety quiz, because I want people to understand there's more than one kind of anxiety. So it's a quiz to help understand, your anxiety code. Like what kind of anxiety do you have? So what specific steps you need to take to fix your anxiety, because no two people are exactly the same. So it comes with a little free course and a quiz, and that'll be coming soon. But for now, you can go and get the brain trick meditation, and then you will find out about the free quiz and mini course when it's ready. So that is amazing. There's also things like the physiological sigh, which is the one that has become very popular now, or it's all over social media, where you go inhale, inhale, and then exhale. You do that for 5 minutes. If you do it faster, you're going to get a little more lightheaded, which you might enjoy. If you do it slower, it's just going to really slow down. Another thing I teach people is just like half speed movement, where you just move at half the speed you normally would. So I'm kind of a sped up. My biology, I'm not experiencing anxiety. I just have a very high glutamate brain. So I'm like, and that feels normal to me. And I feel happy and at peace being that way. But it feels good to slow down. How many times do people say, let me go to the bathroom really quick? And it's like, why do you need to go to the bathroom really quick? If you're not catching a plane, train, or, whatever, not, like, why can't you just saunter to the bathroom and take your time? Why can't you enjoy washing your hands in warm water or whatever, So just physically slowing down your breath, slowing down your movement. It just goes on and on. There's so many different things you can do to change your nervous system. And I want to differentiate their techniques that calm the nervous system, like breath work, meditation. Anyone can meditate, by the way. If I can learn to meditate, anyone can meditate. I'm in love with it. I'm in love with meditation, major game changer. And then another thing that I would consider nervous system work is what we talked about earlier, just sunshine, being barefoot on the earth, going for a hike, hearing running water, like outside, especially besides your toilet, but like outside, and there are just so many things reconnecting with our primal biology through interface with natural elements, cold, heat, sitting in water. I mean, there's so many things that those are getting a hug, snuggling a pet, even sex, like all these things are nervous system work. So nervous system work isn't just like the practices, it's the how you live your life. And then you wanted to talk about supplements. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole fast thing. I remember like in high school, I'm like 6 foot. So I'm like, why? I'm just like walking really, I'm like walking really, I'm like, where am I going? Why am I trying to get somewhere really fast? And I remember for a period of time, I'd be in the bathroom going, why can't I pee faster? Why can't I do this fast? Like always like rushing. And so, yeah, when I do things at a slower pace, my husband's a little more relaxed. That's why I'm with him. He still doesn't move too slowly or I'd probably kill him. But he, and so that slowing down piece, because we get so many people like type A's, they're going through the fertility journey. They are working full time. They maybe are dealing with a toxic workplace, toxic boss. And then let's just do a graduate studies as well, along with that. So many people
Oh
doing
my God.
all
I
of
have a
those.
client who did that. She started a PhD program trying to get off
Yep.
anxiety meds and a really
It's
stressful job with a
it's the
family.
theme we see all the time. Let's just load it on. And they're like, I feel totally fine. I don't feel stressed. But maybe your body and you're dealing with anxiety and you're on the fertility journey. Like that's a lot of stuff you're going through. And so to be able to, recognize that, to be able to see, well, maybe that's, how do we pull back? So
Good point. Yeah, people don't realize how stressed they are. One thing I love about the magic brain trick meditation is it shows you your baseline. It shows you not stressed. And then you start to notice when you're stressed. And it's a good thing, not a bad thing, because then you're like, oh, I'm starting to get ramped now. oh, let me just like pull back a little. Oh, and here's the magic thing about how time works, that it's not how many, it's not like how much crap you can do in a day. It's like the value of a minute. When you have a minute where you're in your genius zone, like you can accomplish more in 15 minutes or an hour than you can accomplish in 3 or 4 hours of being like, go, 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 push, 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 because your brain doesn't work well. Our brains aren't designed to be push, push, pushed all the time. They become inefficient, you know? It's like trying to run a marathon with a broken ankle. Like it doesn't work. Right. And so, like, what I've noticed, and I still have to tell myself this because I was trained not to think this way. We all are, I think. But like, the more I slow down, the more experience pleasure and play, the more I make time to socialize and to get my most basic human needs met, the more like it's like these magic wormholes in the universe open up and I make a connection and that person opens a door that facilitates something that would have taken me like a year of working my ass off. And it happened in a moment because I was available for that.
It is not about banging your head against the wall. That is I used to do that for years. That is not the way through. That's each calmly going, and that's how you get through any kind of struggle or wherever you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can find the Magic Brain Trick meditation at innergeniushealth.com. I'll have that in the show
Right.
notes. Anything quick on
Yeah.
the supplements
And
that you
just
wanted to
quick on the
share?
supplements. Supplements are tricky because everyone's different. So, for example, L-theanine makes some people calm and other people anxious, and like a really low dose works for some people, but some people need a high dose. So that's one you can play with it, but just don't think it's going to be a magic bullet. And L-theanine is a precursor to GABA, which is a calming brain chemical, right? I love ashwagandha. Now, there is some research showing that if you have like Hashimoto's or some major thyroid, I've even had people with thyroid issues who do really well on it, but just there is a disclaimer there. And I've on rare occasion found someone who it doesn't do well with it. But in terms of the most widely tolerated adaptogen that doesn't trigger anxiety, that's truly balancing, it helps you calm down lower cortisol at night so you can sleep. But in the morning, you can take it and it'll help you have more even energy through the day, especially if you wake up with morning anxiety. It helps quell that. So ashwagandha, it's a single herb. Sometimes people get these complex formulas and then they're reacting to one thing in the formula and they don't know what it is. So one of the ways to get to know your body is to try one herb at a time to see how your body likes it. And so anyway, I'm a big fan of ashwagandha just to help regulate your circadian rhythms and nervous system. Big fan of magnesium. I like the upgraded formula is nano magnesium because it crosses the blood-brain barrier. I also like magnesium threonate. It's spelled THREONATE, magnesium threonate. That crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it's really good for sleep, neural repair of the brain cells, and anxiety and depression. So I think that's really safe. I'm a big fan of D3 with K2, like you were saying. Good brands. So those are the ones that I feel like are like pretty darn safe. And those plus working on your gut, gently, not aggressively detoxing, clearing up optimizing your lifestyle. So you're emptying that bucket of stressors, your bucket of burdens. I feel like that tends to resolve people's anxiety. And don't hate me, but gluten and then cow dairy for many people, but often some people tolerate sheep and goat dairy, but gluten, cow dairy, and then refined sugars or high glycemic sugars, caffeine and alcohol, those are not your friends. They're way better things. I eat gluten-free pizza. You should see what I eat. I eat the yummiest comfort food in the world, but I just change the ingredients and I make sure they're nutritionally balanced meals. So anyway, I just think going easy on the supplements, don't try to use a supplement just to shut off, try to really fix the underlying problems. But if you do want some supplements to support your nerve, oh, you did mention fish oil. I'm a big fan of fish oil, also something called pro-resolving mediators, which are a component of fish oil that actually help resolve an inflammatory cycle. So people who are extra inflamed, I find that pro-resolving mediators are really helpful for the brain and the whole nervous system and all your cells. So yeah. And then being careful with the B vitamins, it depends on your genetics and things like that. So I love people to fix their guts so they absorb nutrients and they get most of their B vitamins from their food. But sometimes you really do need to supplement with Bs or MTHF, the methyl tetrahydrofolate. So some people, I like to test to see if people are over or under methylating and things like that. So
Absolutely. Any final thoughts for us today, Traci?
I know it feels like you can't get pregnant fast enough and that the wait is torture. And I've seen people hesitate to invest in something like working with Sarah because they're trying to save all their money for IVF. And I just can't encourage people enough to listen to what she's saying and to to really slow down. Gentle is often way more powerful than aggressive. In most cases, it is. Gentle, slow down, patience. I know I'm asking a lot. Really let yourself heal. And then when you finally do have a baby and your body is asked to make a human, and your experience you're going to have, and even men, the experience you're going to have is so much more positive. You'll have so much more, because it's not just getting pregnant. It's not just getting through the pregnancy and having a healthy baby. Now you're not going to sleep for a year very well, probably. So you need to really resource yourself. I'd rather you be like a really fertile 40-year-old than just a really like stressed out, rushing yourself and tearing yourself down. As a final, I know we have like 1 minute left. There's this one woman who just kept coming up to working with me and pulling back and work, and her husband just wouldn't get on board because he's very conventionally minded. So they didn't do it. They spent tons of money, well, for years on IVF, like tons of money. Finally got pregnant, finally had the baby. She ended up with all kinds of medical complications. The baby ended up with all kinds of medical complications. The baby has birth defects. Like, I mean, it was just, there's so much stuff that ended up happening because she wouldn't invest in herself and heal herself. And she wanted her husband's permission to think like her. So please, like, it's important as couples to get on board with each other with addressing the underlying causes. Take a little more time to do it the right way, and the outcome in the long run. Please play the long game and listen to what Sarah's saying, because she's on it.
Yeah, there's no negative side effects for working on your health. I
Right.
appreciate all your knowledge and wisdom today, Dr. Traci. It was really informative, and definitely check out the Magic Brain Trick Meditation at innergeniushealth.com. And thanks again.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Bye-bye.